Hello, I hope you are well. This is going to be a little video, hopefully. It's probably not going to be, it's me, let's be honest, on the Nord Wave 2. I've got the Nord Stage 3. I've done a little bit of a kind of talk about that in a previous video, comparing it to some other keyboards I've had on my keyboard or piano journey. This is going to be focusing obviously on the Nord Wave 2. I think it's a really interesting instrument. I will talk a little bit about some of the key features of it. I'll do a little bit of an overview of like what's a synthesizer versus a piano, digital keyboard, all that stuff, because the lines do get very blurry, I'll be honest, if you don't know. It's not going to be a comprehensive overview of the Nord Wave 2, because quite frankly, there are much better and far more talented people on the internet who can do the really specific sound, like patch creation and all that type of stuff. So, if you find it interesting, great. If you find some of the content not to be great, let me know. I'm always up for feedback. We all start somewhere. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about what is this instrument to me. The Nord Wave 2, I ended up getting this thing because my AKAI MP11 at the time was in for service and it was COVID, and honestly I felt like I was lost without it. I love making sounds and having something hands-on as an experience. I needed some type of controller. So I ended up with an AKAI MPC 11, the little tiny micro thing. I'll throw a picture up somewhere up here. Really decent controller, but it's not quite the same. They're great, they serve a purpose, but yeah, I ended up getting a Nord Wave 2, very heavily discounted, second-hand, from a guy who pretty much had more money than sense. He had a Profit, he had a OBX, he had pretty much everything imaginable. More money than sense. And yeah, I got mine for about just shy of £1,600, which was a good, £900 off the RRP of the thing. So bargain as far as I'm concerned. As I go through some of the points, I'm going to try and be critical and fair on both sides where I can. What I will say is, whilst I love this instrument, this is not endorsed or, like I've sponsored or anything. I really just want to talk about why I love this instrument and also why I hate it. Because there's no such thing as perfect instruments. And I think if you are genuinely interested in one, from someone who's I see it as a tool. Nothing more, nothing less. Does it inspire me? Does it help my workflow? Does it have features that benefit me? I'll talk about some of those things as well. So yeah, let me look down at the keyboard. There we are. It's upside down. So what I will do is, let me just try and frame this a little bit better for you. That's a bit better. And I will just, there we are. So it's not quite square. You can ignore my grotty looking setup here. It's fine. So we've got obviously 61 keys or 66 keys. Can't remember. It's probably 61. It is very hands-on. That's a big plus for me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not averse to menu diving either, because I've lived in the digital and DAW world for a long time. Massive disclaimer, this is not an analog synth. It does some incredible sounds that do sound very analog, but it's not. There's a whole debate to be had about analog versus digital. I do not plan on going into it in a great measure, or a great amount, but basically there's an idea that analog is just always better and digital is just nothing more than a kind of cheap imitation. Not the case. I think analog versus digital, there's a very immature argument to be made about simplifying it to this sounds better than that. If you're one of those people, I don't mean to offend you, but quite frankly, if that's your mindset, then you need to look at more than just like the meta of it, almost is the way I can describe it. There are some digital synths that sound infinitely more complex and creative than analog synths, and there are analog synths that will just sound warmer, fatter. These are kind of some of the buzzwords that come with analog that, yeah, do sounds that the digital world can only hope of kind of achieving. I think in actuality, you've got to understand digital has its strengths, so does analog, and actually, what is it that you're after? Try and understand, right? If you are in the market for a synth, what is it you're after? Is it subtractive synthesis? Is it FM stuff? Is it wavetable stuff? Are you actually more looking at doing stuff with samples and modulating in them and stuff? All of these things, and if you don't know any of those, then you probably need to just have a little look at doing some kind of basic synthesis. So looking at like your 4 controllers, attack, decay, sustain, release, ADSR, how oscillators work, how sound's made on a synthesizer, and all that stuff before you do start eyeing up a synth. Because, to be honest, one could argue, synths all do the same thing. And the difference between a synth and a keyboard, like a Nord Stage 3, is they are sound generation, manipulation, and editing devices. Can you do that stuff on a keyboard or a digital piano workstation? Yes, absolutely you can, but it depends. Most digital pianos don't have proper synth sections, like actual synthesizer. It'll be some type of sample, I might record a Prophet, get a really nice sound in there, export that audio and do some really clever things to make it sound like when I'm doing my things on my keyboard, there it then has a synth sound and not a keyboard sound, yeah? So understand what the actual technology is, especially if you are in the market for actually getting a synth, because you've got things like Waldorf, absolutely monstrous machines. Some of them sound absolutely awful to some people. You've got the Waldorf Quantum, playing it out of the box, quite a not great experience, depending what type of sound you're after. But the capability of that synth is incredible. Same with something like the Hydrasynth. Hydrasynth, honestly, I've never heard a sound like it from a Hydrasynth. You can program like a waveform and oscillate it and modulate it in ways that are just physically not possible on an analog synthesizer. But with that comes all sorts of other challenges. Very complicated, and I don't want to make it specifically let's talk about synthesis video. All right, so yeah, it's a tool. Does the tool do what it needs to? So I'll try and navigate this the best I can. I'm going to just whiz through the sections because, again, if you want to really get a proper feel for it, you probably need to sit and study one. The Wave is the synthesizer that's been put on the new Nord Stage 4. There's a reason why I'm not upgrading from a Nord Stage 3, because I've got a Nord Stage 3 has a lead synth engine. This is the Wave synth engine. So if I upgraded my current setup into a Nord Stage 4, I'm actually losing out because I've already got a Wave with 4 tracks instead of 3. So anyway, so the way it works and the way most synthesizers work is you pick, this is my kind of core section here, and these are your oscillators. And the way a synth works is you have some type of sound module that's oscillating a signal. You oscillate a sound at a particular frequency and it gives you all your certain types of notes, yeah? With synthesis, it's pretty much like you modulate that waveform. So if you see in here, I'm changing the types of waveforms in here. So if I did let me just go on a blank patch. You've got your basic wave types, which are like your saw, your square, your pulse, yeah? So I'll just do a quick run through these. I don't plan on making it an entirely synth video in terms of like how to, but that's a sine wave. They all sound very different, as you can hear, and you can modulate those in ways so you can put it through a filter or an envelope. So this is my first envelope, and you control the attack, the decay, the sustain, and the release. I can just subtly yeah, that's kind of the fundamental of all synthesis, and it's good because I think if you don't know anything about synths, having something hands-on like that, the Juno is a prime example of it, as well as the Behringer, I can't think what it's called, DeepMind, but that's kind of the fundamental of it, and then you feed that into a filter. So the filter, a filter. Depends on, you've got different types of filters. Again, I'm not going to run through these, but each of these types of filters all have slightly different. You can control the amounts, you can map that to like your mod wheel. You can't see that over here, sorry, but I'll try and shimmy that over in a sec. There you go, so you get now this more, I don't know. And then if I had a mod wheel or something programmed to that, I'm just pushing this up, yeah? So just watch this hand. Yeah, and you can do all sorts of other stuff. It's really, really keeping this super basic. So you can have, that's your basic synth engine. You've got a million and one different types of shapes, sign, and multis, so. You can put, you can detune it, so. This is handy for when you combine it with other layers. I'll show you that in a sec. You can do like a percentage tune, detune on it. So if you want to make it sound a bit more analogue-y. Change that to a super source. Yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff. Again, keeping it really basic, just so you can get an understanding. You can arpeggiate it, so I'm going to turn that on briefly. You can change all the rates. Or you could just have the one. You know, this is just again with one sound, one layer. You've then got your wavetable stuff, so this is kind of like, turn the arpeggiator off would help. So this is like a wavetable organ. Yeah. You've then got, there's all sorts of wavetable type stuff, spectra. Yeah, so again, it's all sound design stuff. You've then got your FM synthesis, which is an entire, you could do a degree on FM synthesis, it's that complex. You've got all partials, 24 on that one. Harmonic, enharmonic. I'll show you some cool presets of that, but loads of stuff. It's not worth me going too much into that. And then last but not least, your samples. I'd have to turn off some of these effects. So give me one sec. I will try and find, that's probably better. This is what I got it for. That is one sample, one layer, with not really a whole lot of stuff. The sample side is what I needed. I had a AKAI MP11, phenomenal pianos, but the strings were a bit meh. Also didn't have a good synth. Bam, this does both, right? The software that comes with this to be able to import your own samples, I've got so many samples as you might have seen in my other videos. I can put my own custom string samples into this, and then I've got like just the best thing ever. But I'm going to focus on that. So that's one layer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of all the other layers. So I want to keep that layer here. What I could actually do is just copy it over. Copy layer D. You see on the left hand side, copy layer D. Paste. And now I've got 4 layers of strings. Okay, if I play that, it's going to sound phasey, because that's what happens when you're doing actual layering of samples. But what I could do is actually then change the type of string being played. So I'll just do a couple here. Let's do a Sordino. I'll change that one to a... Let's do... I don't want a short attack. Let's do the legato, and then what's that one? These are both ambients. So I'll change one of these ambient ones to one of these, something like that. Now, what this is saying, so I've got one layer that's doing legato, second layer doing Sordino, third layer doing soft ambience, and fourth layer doing legato. Just to be clear, most modern synths and samplers can do this, okay? But what's handy with this is it's all hands-on, yeah? So no menu diving. That's a plus for some people. It's also a negative for some, depends how your workflow is. I then can have the option here of changing how the sound is generated or how the sample is being played. So 3 different options here. I could play the same sample between 2 layers and pitch 1 minus 12. So if this was playing at D, I could have the same version of that being played up there, yeah? There's loads of different things you can do, and currently these are all set at minus 12, so I'm going to set some at 0. I'm going to just have a little solo of some of them. 0, minus 12, minus 12. Okay, so that's that. What I can also do then is do some quick panning. So if you hold the pan button, and then you get up and down, I'll do a little bit of separation here. Probably a little bit too much separation. Yeah, they're all now panned. Let's play that. That's pure raw sample. As far as I can see, I've not got anything on that's processing that. I can turn the reverb on. I can do individual layer by layer EQ, effects, delays, the works. So I'm just filtering now through some of my presets. I'm trying to find my string one. So you can navigate through it a couple of different ways. You can also just do like pages like this, and then scroll through like that. Somewhere around here, I think. There you go. So you got... That's mine. This is one of my kind of heavy staccato ones. Not saying it sounds fantastic, but it sounds good, right? And of course, if it didn't sound... I could find the weak sample. Of course, you can split it. So, you know, if you want to play like that pizzicato bit down there, you can do all that type of stuff. Yeah, again, most synths will do similar types of things these days. It's really good. For me, it's kind of like my little workhorse. I play some actual proper synth stuff on it, so I will have to shimmy that over a touch just so you can see the mod wheel and stuff here, right? So if you know what this song's from, please let me know in the comments. I love a fellow fan. Now it's in like monophonic mode, which you can control through the voice mode up here. You could have that legato, so it plays a little bit more like glides, and you can have it be, you know, a mixture. I can go from that nice little bass tone. I've got this frequency response knob here, morphed. You see it says green on wheel. So that is linked to the wheel. I can link it to a pedal, can link it to aftertouch, I can link it to the velocity. So I think I've got a track where this one here, it's actually linked to the velocity. So if you listen to this one, it's a bit low that, sorry. I'm going to start digging in. God, absolutely awful. Proper OB sound. Yes, it's not an actual OB, but it's pretty close. And I don't think, I've not got the audio, like this isn't proper mixed or anything, this is just raw out. Yeah, pretty cool. This is a nice little funky percussive thing. It's got a mixture, if you look, green aftertouch, velocity and wheel. So I've got some mod wheel stuff. I've got some velocity, so as I dig in. And then, as you say, I've got the aftertouch. As I push in, I get that extra. So let me just play something there. So. There you know. Can build some really nice layers there, yeah. I think this is my Stellaris inspired. Stellaris is a Paradox game, it's fantastic. Sunk far too many hours into it. But yeah, this is, I love the soft synth kind of stuff, so have a listen to this. bit of aftertouch. Now, something about aftertouch, if you're thinking, what on earth is aftertouch? If I press and dig in, I get that little... You can customize what that does. The way aftertouch works on 95% of keyboards though, once aftertouch is on, it's on for all the notes. So this isn't polyphonic aftertouch, which basically means if I pressed these 3 notes here, dug in this note to get that wibbly wobbly sound, it's going to do it for all. Yeah. If you had polyphonic, it does it on a note by note basis. There's not many keyboards that have full polyphonic aftertouch. I'd also argue it's not necessarily relevant either, depending on the use case. Alright, so yeah, great little keyboard. I thought I'd play through some of my favourite patches. It does a lot of things very well. There's some really fun patches on here. This is a nice one. You've got transposing, so if you want to, I'm not going to call it cheating, but if you want to get inspired very quickly. Really nice little sound. Mellotron sounds, these are nice. I've customised a lot of that, but as you hear, it sounds pretty fat. It's not really got much panning, so what I could do, maybe play about with some panning on that, just to give a bit of separation, yeah. So... pretty very, very quick for me to change some of these layers. Maybe actually I don't want... Let's get that instead. Change some of the levels. Really beautiful, actually. And that's, for all of its shortcomings as a synthesizer, as a sample manipulation and instrument to play, it's fantastic. I'm going to now flip back to being upside down. There we are. I like doing stuff live like this sometimes because AI and all that. For all of its strengths, there has to now come the really difficult bit, which is when we talk about its downsides. Biggest flaw it has, I'm going to play a C minor chord, sorry, just a C chord, inversion. I want to change the voicing though. Instantly cuts off. So maybe I've got a sequence of live songs. I've changed over to the next sound. Not acceptable for me. If you are a performing musician, what's really annoying is there is no reason why, for me, if you swap a layer, why it can't bank the sound and hold on to it even for a short period. The Node Stage 3, which is about 8 years old now, does not have that problem. Now, I'm mindful it's not got the same synth engine, so maybe it's a limitation of the Wave 2, I do not know if it is still a problem on the Node Stage 4. I would imagine that it would absolutely not be, because it's a flagship keyboard. For it not to have seamless transition, honestly, is probably going to be a deal breaker for some. That's fine. You know, like, I'm going to be completely honest. If you was like, oh my god, how? Why? It sucks. I'm hoping there was a firmware update. I've had this thing for 2-3 years now. It's still not come. So then we look at what is its position in the market. It's not a flagship synthesizer, because quite frankly, if you spent the same amount of money on a flagship synth, you'd probably be getting Analogue as well as a lot more features. Polyphony and all that stuff I'm not going to go into because it doesn't matter on this instrument particularly. But for an analog synth versus digital, that's what breaks analog synthesis, is normally the polyphony. So for example, you can get like little tiny Juno box. I'll throw her up on screen. It's pretty much a Juno in a box. Some people say it's VST, some people say it's not. The one limitation of it is polyphony. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. So if you got this on RRP, what else could you get for the money? I'm not going to sit and do that study and analysis, but you're not far off a lot of other instruments that arguably, depending on the type of thing you're trying to get it to do, it's a tool to do a job, yeah? Depending what the thing is you're after solving, so you need an analog sounding subtractive synth. Cool. You want a Juno clone. Well, there's loads of Juno clone synths going to be better than this one. The Juno clones, though, won't be able to do the sampling sounds the same, right? So in terms of who is this designed for, I honestly do not know. I'm obviously one of those people that have it and love it, but I think as an actual consumer, looking at it as a product, I think it's really weird. And yeah, it's interesting. Maybe someone in the comments will say, look, I think you're wrong. Tell me. Honestly, like, if you are that person that you think this is designed for, let me know, because I've not quite figured it out yet. That being said, I think the actual machine itself and the functions and the sounds and everything you can do with it were so good that it brought me into the Nord ecosystem. So it's good enough for me, but I am very well aware that the world of synthesis and synthesizers is very, at times, toxic. And actually, if you go down the rabbit hole, you look at like people with doorless setups and all this kind of crazy stuff. You've got the Jupiter X. That's an absolutely massive flagship synthesizer from Roland that is cheaper or more or less the same price than this thing. Very good. Also very different beast. Weighs a ton. You know, it's almost like a statement. It's also arguably sounds better and worse in some categories. Lots of menu diving to get some of the advanced features. Same on this thing though, you know. Again, I've not touched through every single possible feature on this because, yeah, as I said, there's loads more other videos, and this video is already probably close to 40 minutes. So yeah. But yeah, really weird and wonderful instruments. I'm not sure who it's meant for. So if you watch this video and think, not quite sure, that's kind of how I feel after owning it for 3 years. Fantastic for me. But I think actually, if you had $2,500 to go and spend on a synth, would this be your first choice? I'm not going to say it, but I think you know the answer. So yeah, really great instrument. It inspires me and I use it every single day. It's a fantastic MIDI controller. Every single one of those controls and pots you can manipulate and use and customize and stuff as a controller. So it's fantastic for that. But as a standalone synth, yeah, if it didn't have the if it did have seamless transition, I'd say it's easily worth the price. Easily. Depending on what tool or what part of your arsenal you need fitting or fixing. And that's for the same reason why a lot of people will call it mediocre for the price. I paid £1,600 for mine, so I really can't knock it. If I pay $2,500 though, I might have a completely much stronger opinion or inclination the other way. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because I thought some people had asked me about it. And yeah, I've been quite honest and open, I think. I've obviously got one and kept it, so that tells you everything, I think. But as with everything, depends on you as a user, what you want out of an instrument. The way the market is going is everything's getting infinitely more expensive. So value for money and all that stuff. There's a reason why people are looking at the little tiny Roland groove boxes and stuff, and I can't think what they're called, like remastered, remodeled, bloody TR-808s and all this stuff, boutiques, the boutique things, because for value for money, they're fantastic, but they do come with lots of real limitations that you don't necessarily find on a big, massive synthesizer like this. So, yeah, I've waffled long enough. If you'd like to see something more that I didn't cover, other than actual full-blown synthesis from start to finish with like complex sound design and stuff, honestly, there's many other people that can show you that. But if there's something that you'd like to look at a little bit more, or a conversation point or something, let me know, because yeah, I love my keyboards and my instruments and chatting about them, as you well know. I've done it for 40 odd minutes, so I'll shut up. And yeah, let me know what you think and any suggestions for future stuff. So thank you very much, and have a lovely rest of the day wherever you are.